But to the casual visitor at Sierra Leone, the Mohammedan is a mere passing sensation. You neither feel a burning desire to laugh with or at him, as in the case of the country folks, nor do you wish to punch his head and split his coat up his back, things you yearn to do to that perfect flower of Sierra Leone culture, who yell your bald name across the street at you, condescendingly informs you that you can go and get letters that are waiting for you, while he smokes his cigar and lolls in the shade, or in some similar way displays his second-hand rubbishy white culture, a culture far lower and less dignified than that of either the stately Mandingo or the bush chief. I do not think that the Sierra Leone dandy really means half as much insolence as he shows, but the truth is he feels too insecure of his own real position, in spite of all the side he puts on, and so he dares not be courteous like the Mandingo or the bush fan. It is the costume of the people in Freetown and its harbor that will first attract the attention of the newcomer, notwithstanding the fact that the noise, the smell, and the heat are simultaneously making desperate bids for that favor. The ordinary man in the street wears anything he may have been able to acquire anyhow, and he does not fasten it on securely. I fancy it must be capillary attraction, or some other particularly understood force, that takes part in the matter. It is certainly neither braces nor buttons. There are, of course, some articles from which their very structure are fairly secure, such as an umbrella with the stick and ribs removed, or a shirt. This last mentioned treasure, which usually becomes the property of the ordinary man from a female relative or an admirer taking in white men's washing, is always worn flowingly free, as has such a charm in itself that the happy possessor cares little what he continues his costume with: trousers, loincloth, red flannel petticoat, or rice bag drawers, being, as he would put it, all same for one to him. The ladies are divided into three classes: the young girl you address as Titi, the young person as Sester, the more mature charmer as Mammy. But I do not advise you to employ these terms when you are on your first visit, because you might get misunderstood. For, you see, by addressing Mammy as Sister, she might think either that you were unconscious of her dignity as a married lady, a matter she would soon put you right on, or that you were flirting, which, of course, was totally foreign to your intention, and would make you uncomfortable. My advice is that you rigidly stick to Mrs. or Mammy. I have seen this done most successfully. The ladies are almost as varied in their costume as the gentlemen, but always neater and cleaner, and mighty picturesque they are too, and occasionally very pretty. A market woman with her jolly brown face and laughing brown eyes all the softer for a touch of anatomy, her ample form clothed in a lively print overall, made with a yoke at the shoulder, and a full long flounce which is gathered onto the yoke under the arms and falls fully to the feet, with her head done up in a yellow or red handkerchief, and her snowy white teeth gleaming through her vast smiles, is a mighty pleasant thing to see and to talk to. But, alas, the circumference of them! The stone-built, whitewashed market buildings of Freetown have a creditably clean and tidy appearance, considering the climate, and the quantity and variety of things exposed for sale. Things one wants the pen of Rabelais to catalogue. Here are all manner of fruits, some of which are familiar to you in England, others that soon become so to you in Africa. You take them as a matter of course if you are outward bound, but on your call homeward, if you make it, you will look on them as a blessing and a curiosity. For lower down, particularly in the rivers, these things are rare to be had, and never in such perfection as here, and to see again lettuces, yellow oranges, and tomatoes bigger than marbles is a sensation and a joy. One of the chief features of Freetown are the Jack Crows. Some writers say they are peculiar to Sierra Leone, others that they are not, but both unite in calling them picaresque genomophallus. To the white people who live in daily contact with them, they are turkey buzzards; to the natives, ubu. Anyhow, they are evil-looking fowl, and no ornament to the roof ridges they choose to sit on. The native Christians ought to put a row of spikes along the top of their cathedral to keep them off. The beauty of that edifice is very far from great, and it cannot carry off the effect produced by the row of these noisome birds as they sit along its summit, with their wings arranged at all manner of different angles, in an all-gone way. One bird, perhaps, will have one straight out in front, the others casually disposed at right angles, another both straight out in front, and another again with both hanging hopelessly down, but none with them neatly and tidily folded up, as decent birds' wings should be. They all give the impression of having been extremely drunk the previous evening, and of having subsequently fallen into some sticky abomination, into blood for choice. Being the scavengers of Freetown, however, they are respected by the local authorities, and preserved, and the natives tell me that you never see either a young or a dead one. The latter is a thing you would not expect, for half of them look as though they could not live through the afternoon. They also told me that when you got close to them, they had a trong sniff too much. I did not try, but I am quite willing to believe this statement. The other animals most in evidence in the streets are, first and foremost, goats and sheep. I have to lump them together, for it is exceedingly difficult to tell one from the other. All along the coast the empirical rule is that sheep carry their tails down, and goats carry their tails up. Fortunately, you need not worry much anyways, for they both taste rather like nothing than the world was made of, as Frau Buchholz says, and own in addition a fibrous texture and a certain twang. Small cinnamon-colored cattle are to be got here, but horses there are practically none. Now and again, someone who does not see why a horse should not live here as well as at Accra and Lagos imports one, but it always shortly dies. Some say it is because the natives who get their living by hammock carrying poison them. Others say that the tsetse fly finishes them off, and others, these I believe are right, say the entoza are the cause. Small, lean, lank yellow dogs with very erect ears lead an awful existence, afflicted by many things, but beyond all others by the goats who reared their family in the grassy streets choose to think the dogs intend attacking them. Last but not least, there is the pig, a rich source of practice to the local lawyer. Cape Coast Castle and then Accra were the next places of general interest at which we stopped. The former looks well from the roadstead, and as if it had very recently been whitewashed. It is surrounded by low, heavy forested hills which rise almost from the seashore, and the fine mass of its old castle does not display its dilapidation at a distance. Moreover, the 3 stone forts of Victoria, William, and McCarthy, situated on separate hills commanding the town, add to the general appearance of permanent substantialness, so different from the usual ramshackledom of West Coast settlements. Even when you go ashore and have time to recover your senses, scattered by the surf experience, you find this substantialness a true one, not a mere visual delusion produced by painted wood as the seeming substantialness of Sierra Leone turns out to be when you get too close to quarters with it. It causes one some mental effort to grasp the fact that the Cape Coast has been in European hands for centuries, but it requires a most unmodern power of credence to realize this of any other settlement on the whole western seaboard until you have the pleasure of seeing the beautiful city of San Paul de Leonana, far away down south, past the Congo. Londa. My experience of the Cape Coast on this occasion was one of the hottest, but one of the pleasantest I have ever been through on the Gold Coast. The former attribute was due to the climate, the latter to my kind friends Mr. Batty and Mr. and Mrs. Dennis Kemp. I was taken round the grand stone-built houses with their high stone-walled yards and sculpture-decorated gateways built by the merchants of the last century and of the century before, and through the great rambling stone castle with its water tanks cut in the solid rock beneath it, and its commodious accommodations for slaves awaiting shipment, now almost as obsolete as the guns it mounts, but not quite so, for these cool and roomy chambers serve to house the native constabulary and their extensive families. This being done, I was taken up an unmitigated hill on whose summit stands Fort William, a pepper pot-like structure now used as a lighthouse. The view from the top was exceedingly lovely and extensive. Beneath and between us and the sea lay the town in the blazing sun. In among its solid stone buildings, patches of native mud-built huts huddled together as though they'd been shaken down out of a sack into the town to serve as dunnage. Then came the snow-white surf wall, and across it the blue sea with our steamer rolling to and fro on the long regular swell, impatiently waiting until Sunday should be over and she could work cargo. Round us on all other sides were wooded hills and valleys, and away in the distance to the west showed the white town and castle of Elima and the 9-mile road thither, skirting the surf-bound seashore, only broken on its level way by the mouth of the sweet river. Over all was the brooding silence of the noonday heat, broken only by the dulled thunder of the surf.